If you've still been pulled into that runner-chaser dynamic of the twin flame journey and you're ready to step out of that loop, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you 7 relationship patterns that can help you heal yourself within so that you come into balance and stop that push-pull purge from continuing. And be sure to check out part 1 through 6 of the Detachment series because this particular video is part 7 of that series. Hi, fellow flames. In case we haven't met, my name is Dr. Harmony, and I will help you live fearless, live loved, and live free. In today's video, I want to share with you 7 relationship patterns that can help you identify and break the pattern that you have subconsciously running that is continuing to cause the runner-chaser dynamic within your twin flame interaction. The other thing I do want you to know, this same pattern could be running throughout all of your relationships. So it works in all dynamics. Because the bottom line is these patterns are patterns that we have set up that are repeating behaviors that we have used over and over again throughout most of our lifetime that links to usually our childhood wounds and our parents. And so what we tend to do is we are projecting a desire onto someone else to fulfill within our own needs what we would like to have. A lot of times we're giving what we want to receive, but based on the other person may not align with that, their giving might be differently than the way we want to receive. So we tend to set them up to fail, basically, because we want something that they may not even have the skill set to be able to give you. So in these relationship patterns, what we tend to do is not just from a vibrational standpoint of our energetic lesson that we need to trigger us, to awaken us, to reveal the core wounds, to heal on the soul level. On a subconscious level, we're picking these people that are allowing us to subconsciously play out the programming and the subconscious patterns that are running over and over and over. This is why I say all the time that no matter how much cord cutting you've done, no matter how much energy work you've done, if you haven't released the subconscious pattern in your mechanism of your three-dimensional being, those programs are still operating. And you're continuing to create and set yourself up to continue these patterns because it's habitual running and you don't even realize what's going on, because most of the time in these 7 types of patterns, you may not even realize it. So in these interactions that you're having with these people, it's demonstrating, these behaviors that are and habits that are within you for, again, your own emotional needs, your own physical needs. And how we basically show up for ourselves in that is how we teach people how to show up for us in that. So when we tend to do is we let other people treat us certain ways, and then we justify, we validate, and we really hold the energy of the twin flame or anyone around us because we are so unconditional, we're so loving, that we think we got to clean up our own part and we have to hold their weight, so to speak, because that's the right thing to do. But you continue managing this for, say, your twin flame or other relationships, and what happens is it's robbing you of your own power, your own energy, your own ability to stay consistent within alignment with your own truth, and it keeps part of what's pulling you through the continued repeated pattern of the push-pull-purge, the runner-chaser dynamic that is creating that need to take back your power and because what happens in this when we go through these patterns enough it sets us up for resentment. When we gave these things and we've not received them in return, then eventually we resent that and we withdraw from that and we withhold from that and we pull back in that. We take our power back from that. But then we come into the gift of that, and then the energy between the dynamic starts to, the resistance releases, that creates a surrendered connection between you and whoever it is that you're interacting with. That then magnetizes them to you. They return to you, and your pattern then repeats the process of allowing yourself to continue that loop over and over and over. So if you're ready to step out of the loop, I want to share these 7 relationship patterns with you so that you can get out of this maze, get back to you, come into alignment with you, and clear the subconscious programming that's been running for most of your lifetime. The first relationship pattern that you need to identify with is being the caretaker. The caretaker tends to be an empath, someone that has a lot of sympathy. Usually someone that does not take care of themselves first. They put everybody first before they put themselves. And what this does is this creates an attraction to the toxic type relationships, the narcissistic type relationships. And it tends to be that you have a program running that you have a need to take care of these people, these partners, your twin flame, because of the fact inside of you, you really want to be the one to be taken care of, but all of that's pointing you back to you to take care of yourself. And one of the ways that you can, try to not just identify this, but to release it is to set yourself up in a situation that allows you to be taken care of through support team, support system. You need somebody outside to be your cheerleader. You need somebody that can take care of you. And this is usually hard at first, especially when you've been that nurturer or the giver and you haven't received this. This is awakening the divine parent inside of you that says, I'm going to heal my inner child wounds so that basically I can move beyond those limitations of the patterns that usually link to the childhood. So if you've been experiencing that, be sure to check out my Reprogram Your Childhood Wounds online course, and the first module is free below. So make sure to check that out. The second relationship pattern is the fixer. The fixer tends to be the problem solver, the one that knows how to get it done, that looks beyond the problem and actually has solutions for the problem of yourself in your life. So in that, you're basically trying to manage other people's lives by fixing their problems, but it's not your problem to fix. You tend to, in this role, be responsible for the person, your twin flame. If they have a problem, you want to fix it. This is usually built around an emotional instability, emotionally unable to manage emotions. Most of the twin flames, especially the divine masculines, are been emotionally emasculated, so they can't manage their emotions. So as the divine feminine tends to try to be the fixer, to come in and be the one to manage the emotions, to have this sense of guilt if that lover, that twin flame is feeling uncomfortable, wanting to, come in and fix the problem. But what really in that is happening is that is your own self that doesn't need to take that on. That's not your responsibility to own that for your twin flame or anyone else. Clean out your own closet first. And usually you're the chaser trying to fix your twin flame's problems when it's your own problems you need to be focusing on before you try to fix anybody else's problems. The third relationship pattern is the alpha. The alpha is the controller, the need to be in control. And usually what happens is you want to be the initiator. You want to initiate the, say, call. You want to initiate the text. You want to initiate the being able to speak your truth. But you're initiating it is what you're doing because you want them to be also be an initiator. But what you have to realize in the energy pattern of that, if you're initiating constantly, and you're constantly the one that has got the energy behind it that's stepping into the space, you're taking up the space for anyone to give you what it is you want, because the energy polarity is a push energy, and therefore you're pushing what you want away. So you need to allow yourself to come into the balance of that. Allow yourself to have the space to let somebody else initiate. Give it time. You know, if you're waiting to hear back for that text or, you know, that phone call, or to be able to have them show up, they can't do it if you don't let them. So take some time, step away, and stop trying to manage them, and you focus on yourself, and then give it space for what you want to show up. If it's not your twin flame to show up, it can be what you're desiring to show up that also can't show up if you're taking up the space because you're in control and not trusting the process of what you desire to come into your reality. So that's the typical laws of attraction, basically, that's saying, I'm focusing on the lack of it, so I'm going to get more of the lack of it. So, you know, when we've all been, you know, alpha in some way, I would say, at least most of us on this journey. For me, letting go of being the alpha, I always said, was like a wild horse that was going to be saddled for the first time, and it's going to be a rough ride, because I don't want to let go of that wild spirit inside of me. There's this sense of control that I've had my whole life. And so, you know, this is one of my primary patterns that I've had to identify and release. And I know that my karmic soulmate of a long 8-year relationship helped me identify myself being this fixer and realize that I am not going to be the fixer any longer. So when you can come into awareness of what these different patterns that you have inside of you, then you can reroute that process and reprogram it to where you can introduce a new habit, a new way to process it. The fourth relationship pattern is being the parent. Now, I don't know about you, but being the parent in a relationship is not necessarily a romantic thing. I actually experienced that in my last relationship as well, which was also clearing a past life of mother-son, and it played out exactly like that in our dynamic. After 4 years, it went from being heaven to 3 years of hell. And in that 3 years of hell, it basically became, you know, me saying out loud, I am not your mother. And being the parent is really when you have the role of taking on the day-to-day operations in a space of saying, cleaning up after them, being nagging, coming to a place of like this nag where they're not able to do things the way you think they should be done, usually, or the time frame you think they should be done. It's going to be a little bit overlapping with that alpha and also like the fixer. But it would be like, say, if you lived with somebody, even your kids, for example, and they chose to load up the dishwasher, but you chose to say, well, it wasn't good enough, and you have to come behind and re-sort the dishwasher of what's in there. It wasn't that they got it in there being okay, it wasn't in there right. So who's to really say what's right or wrong in these things? I think if you're in any relationship, for it to be healthy, which is what we're redefining in all of these roles as twin flames, you want to move into a romantic relationship that's fun, flowing, flexible, and, you know, sexy and spicy. Well, if you're a parent, that's not very sexy and spicy. So evaluate yourself in these roles or in your past experiences in these roles, because if you've been experiencing that, You want to identify that. You want to reprogram that. So as you go forward in new relationships, you're not being the parent any longer. And the fifth relationship pattern is being the codependent. The codependent is basically where you end up losing your identity. Usually this is due to the codependency you have to fill your void from the external need of a lover or someone else. It's filling up that void, and you lose your ability to go out and have your friends, your fun, do things on your own, to where you require the other person to become such a unit that there is no separation. Now, what it will tell you is most people think about that with the twin flame, it's what it's supposed to be. But I want you to know, from a healthy relationship, we have individual powerful identities that is running parallel to each other, which is what the twin flame journey is all about. Being independent, being interdependent, being whole, complete, being in a place of empowerment, and then also coming together with two empowered people moving in the same direction that allows the integration and the flow between the two of you, creating the balance of self and the harmony together, which is all about the reunion of the twin flames, has to come into this whole and complete loving individuals before you can have necessarily the reunion. Otherwise, you're losing your identity, and that's not what this journey is about on the twin flame journey. It's all about owning your truth, creating your own identity, and you doing it individually for both of you, and then integrating and interacting in between those identities with one common connection that takes you in the same direction. The sixth relationship pattern is the push-pull, which is really the runner-chaser. But that can also happen in any relationship. It's not necessarily just with your twin flame. Basically, in that relationship is where you come together in that bubble love, that initial connection that, yes, it's an energetic pull in twin flame, your dynamic that's pulling you together, that's a magnetic polarity to basically lift you both up into this intoxicating bubble love that makes you both feel better than you've ever potentially felt in your life, creating so much magic. But then in that higher vibration, the lower karmic debris can't live in that frequency. So it's time to release that. It's time to let it out. And you come together so fast, so quickly. It's such a kaboom that there's no way to now bring that into a physical reunion without the clearing of all of this debris. So that creates the separation that pulls apart. So the push is together to activate that, awaken it, to be able to then pull apart, to go and purge out the karma. So in that space, what that causes is rejection, especially for the chaser. It causes a lot of fear for the runner, and the fear being that usually they don't want to face that piece of themselves because it's deep. It requires change in their life, to make changes to be able to fulfill the role, like, because this comes together so fast that it then starts taking everyone to look at the outcome of like already planning, how am I going to rearrange my life for us to be together, because this is it. And what happens is then that sets in fear of what has to be changed, not just within yourself, but within everything around you most often. And especially when there's other marriages and relationships that can be involved in this. So, it causes a feeling of rejection. So what, when it comes to this, there's so much like being unsecure. There's a lack of security in it. And so what that really says in your own self, this is triggering the pain that you have ran from. Because if they're the runner, it's really you running. And you're running from yourself and your own pain. You're running from your ability to feel your own emotions. So instead of looking at your twin flame as the runner, you need to start looking at yourself. If you're focusing on them as you refocusing that and looking in the mirror and saying, it's really me running, and what am I running from? And where's this pain coming from? And how can I heal this? So the seventh relationship pattern that you need to look at, which is really common, is the rescuer. The rescuer tends to look and invest into another person. And this could be invest financially, emotionally, domestically. It's basically going out of your way to protect someone. So in all reality, in the reflection of that, you are wanting and desiring protection of yourself. And so what tends to happen is sometimes this is the codependent that can also do this, because you will attract needy partners that they need you because they don't know how to manage their own needs, because their needs have been met for them. So it gives you an opportunity to, like, usually from a place of gives you a sense of satisfaction. That's kind of the word that's coming through here. You have a satisfaction of being satisfied that you were able to help that person. You have such a need to help troubled people, partners, your twin flame in trouble. And you're such a nice person. And you tend to usually let them off the hook easy, because then you start justifying why you're rescuing them, and that it's okay to rescue them because they need XYZ, and I will continue to go help them do ABC because that is going to help them. And the bottom line is it's protecting them, and you personally want the protection that you're giving away. And this one tends to really cause a lot of resentment, because most of the time when you are a rescuer, you're not being rescued back for sure. And then you tend to project onto that your own need. You don't get it, and then you resent the fact that you're doing it. But usually the rescuer, you have to go through this process over and over and over and over and over and over. This one's so hard to see because it's so deep. And so I invite you to take a look at all 7 of these, to replay this, to visit, because you could also be more than one of these. You could be all of these, but usually you're a primary 1, 2, or 3. And what you need to do is start checking each of them off of your list and see how you're doing it and how it's playing out with your twin flame dynamic, how it's playing out with other relationships, and then start seeing that each one of these you are, and then healing within you what each one of these are within you, so that your projection of what your desire is changes. Because if you stop rescuing, that means you don't need rescued. And so that means you will then attract someone that will actually come in and fulfill your needs because you desire it and deserve it, versus coming at it from a place of it's an expectation that you have to do that. Okay? Make sure to leave me a comment below and let me know which one of these, or multiple ones of these, that is a pattern that you've had that you need to correct. And you work on correcting these patterns within yourself, seeing the mirrored reflection within that, and that's going to help you stop this runner-chaser dynamic that continues to just go on and on and on. Now, with that being said, in the runner-chaser dynamic, I also want you to know that might create a separation, but you need to create the space for you yourself to create what it is you want in all of these things to make yourself feel whole and complete. And stop waiting for someone else to do it. You do it for you, and then it's going to show up in your life because you showed up for you. All right, give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to check out these videos over here for the other series of the Detachment series. And I'll see you in the next video. May you always face your fears, find freedom, and glow forward on fire. Namaste.